It's November the 29th. Lake level's a little over 910. We actually had about 3 inches of rain over Thanksgiving, and I hope everybody had a really good Thanksgiving. But with that 3 inches of rain, the lake came up about 6 inches or so. Water temperature's kind of all over the place. It depends where you're at. It's anywhere from 56 to 57, and you can even, up in the river arms, you can find some real low 50s, even, the other day I found 49 degrees way up in the river. But the deep bite's getting really good. The fish are starting to get grouped up a lot better, and there's still been a real good shallow bite. As far as the shallow bite, it seems like the nastier of the days, and it seems like it's mainly in the morning up till about 10 o'clock. But if you got, windy, cloudy conditions, there's a lot of fish up real shallow, and I've mainly been fishing in the mid-lake area, say like, Campbell Point to the dam, to Ants Creek, in around Kimberling City. That to me seems to be where the best bite is, whether it's shallow or deep. But I know in that, I think it was the polar bear tournament a few weeks ago, the guys caught a ton of fish on, crankbaits, rock crawlers, wiggleworts, and on spinnerbaits. A lot of the spinnerbaits, and a lot of these fish had been right up on the bank. Like to throw a tandem willow, something in a shad pattern. This is a blue heron skirt, chartreuse and white will work, and even one with painted blades will work. And like I say, a lot of these fish are on rock transitions, but wind seems to be the key. Some of them are on secondary points, some are on main lake points. It seems like you just got to cover a lot of water. In them same areas, the crankbait bite has been real good. And like I say, some of them have been right up on the bank, or, when they're really biting good and aggressive, it's no deeper than 6 or 8 feet. But once that bite slows down a little bit in them same areas, you can take like that new rock crawler, that 50 DD, which will get down anywhere from 12 to 14 foot, and work it out there a little bit deeper on them ledges, and still catch a few fish that way. I haven't had much of a jig bite as far as around the docks. I've been either fishing real shallow with the crankbait or the spinnerbait, or then I've been backing out there deep. And the deep bite, I make it sound like it's real good. It's real good once you find them and get on them, but you got to do a lot of searching. And the places I'm doing a lot of searching are in these deep creeks. I'm pretty much starting from the mouths of the creeks and idling around till I find the big schools of shad. And several different ways, I'm catching them out there, mainly 3 different baits. I'm throwing a white spoon, anywhere from a 3/4 to a 1 ounce, 7/8 Rapala jig and wrap, or ice fishing jig. And I really don't think it matters on the color of the jig and wrap, because you're fishing it so deep. I think there's only a few different colors that them fish recognize anyway. So I like the blue and the chartreuse and white. And just for a second on the colors on the crankbaits, I get back there for a sec, but this Phantom Watermelon seems to work real good if you've got some sun up. And when it's overcast, I like more of a solid color like the Stone Cold or the Red Bug. So much of the color on the crankbait to me is it's in your head. It's confidence. And a lot of times I'll start out with the Stone Cold because I've got a lot of confidence in it. And then I'll play around with different colors after I start getting some bites on it, see if they'll bite like the Red Bug a little better, or even the Phantom Watermelon. But back to the deep deal, like I say, a lot of times I don't think the color of them ice fishing jigs or the jig and wrap makes that much of a difference as deep as you're fishing. And a lot of the fish are at different depths. You'll see bait at 20 foot and you'll see bait at 60 to 80 foot. What you got to do is just roam around them schools of shad, and you can actually find some fish that are feeding underneath them. The one thing I have found is after these cold fronts come through, which we've had several in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, the day after the cold front, I found the fish to be more relating to the bottom. And, some of my better fish have been coming 60, 65 foot deep on the spoon or the jig and wrap. And it seems like on the days where the weather's been consistent for 2 or 3 days, them fish are more up suspended in the water column, around the shad and underneath them. And like I say, I'll idle all the way into the backs of the creeks to find where there's active fish feeding on the shad. And you can usually tell on your electronics, you know, some of the fish are on treetops, some of them are dead on the bottom. You just kind of got to play around quite a bit. A good little search bait, if you start seeing some fish suspended up there in the water column, like say you're in 60 to 80 foot, and if you've got forward facing sonar, whether it be Garmin Live Scope or the Lowrance Live Target, if you start seeing individual fish out there 20, 25 foot, a bait that's been working good for me is I'm throwing a big bite swimmer head, either a 1/4 ounce or 3/8, and I'm throwing a little jerk minnow. And I like the little jerk minnow, the Demiki style or fluke style baits, more in the wintertime than I do like a swim bait. I think it's a little bit more subtle action than the swim bait tail, and I seem to catch more fish on it. Now, if you like to throw it on a bait caster, they've got a 5/8 and a 3/4 ounce head, you know, Big Bite does also, and you can throw it on a, you know, 10 or 12 pound line on a bait caster. Most of the time I'm throwing this on like a 12 pound sun braid with a 8 pound sunfluorocarbon FX, the Sniper FX leader, about an 8 or 10 foot leader. But if you see them isolated fish out there, you don't necessarily have to see your bait. But if you can just cast in the direction of those fish, count the bait down to about where you're seeing the fish. And those have been a lot of smallmouths up there, a little bit higher in the water column. The Kentucky seem to be over the treetops in that 35 to 40, but my bigger largemouths have been coming, you know, as deep as 60 foot, some 50 to 60 under the shad, some right on the bottom. But that bite there is just going to get better and better. But, you know, a lot of the creeks, like if you get around Kimberling, like Mill Creek, Schooner Creek, White's Branch, you get up there around Baxter, Big Creek is a good creek to try. A lot of them, you know, them big creeks are like a lake in itself. And you just got to spend a little bit of time idling around. Now, something I haven't tried with the water temperature getting down, I know, you know, there's been some fish being caught on these big swim baits around cedar trees on these secondary points. And I think you could probably do the same thing on a suspended jerk bait. But these big glide baits and the swim baits will also work up there shallow and around the cedar trees. A couple that have been working good for me, I've been throwing the Mega Bass, I think they call it the Mag Draft, the 6-inch, and sometimes I'll throw an 8-inch. That's a big old bait. You got to throw it on a real stiff rod, probably 20 or 25 pound line. But I'm just keeping the bait just underneath the surface, trying to parallel the bank and, you know, keep it up pretty close. It seems like any place you find any big gizzard shad up cruising around, it's a good place to throw one of these big swim baits or glide baits. And also around the cedar trees on the secondary points in Main Lake. But I think the deep bite's getting better and better, as it should for the next 2 or 3 weeks. And as long as that water doesn't get much below 50 on certain days, that rock crawler bite's going to be real good along with a spinnerbait. So till next week, good luck, good fishing.